A week before our wedding, my fiancée vanished without a word. Then I learned the truth. She was saying goodbye to her ex. I sold the ring, canceled everything, and then she showed up at my office in tears. "Hello, everyone. My name is Ethan. This happened just 1 week before my wedding. All of a sudden, my fiancée disappeared without a trace. She wasn't answering calls. She wasn't replying to messages. For a second, I thought something terrible had happened to her, that I would find her in a tragic situation. But no. It turns out she just needed space, and apparently, she found that space with her ex. Let me give you some context before I tell you what turned into a nightmare. I'm 30 and I'm a project manager at a construction company. 5 years ago, I met Maya. She's 29. It was at a friend's housewarming party. She was smart, beautiful, and had that kind of laugh that draws you in. We went from dating to living together, and then came the marriage proposal. I planned it during a dinner on a restaurant rooftop. It was perfect. We both cried. Since then, we started planning the wedding. Everything seemed to be going well, except for one constant obstacle in the relationship: Danielle. She was Maya's best friend from college and a self-proclaimed champion of female independence. She spent her time in leggings, uploading motivational quotes to Instagram, and naturally, always had something negative to say about me. She looked at me with contempt, as if listening to me were torture. My older brother, Scott, never bought into her act. At the first family barbecue where he met her, Danielle started lecturing us about toxic masculinity while grilling some burgers. Scott stared at her and quipped, "The only thing toxic I see is what you put on your eyebrows. They look like two slugs fighting for territory." Maya got angry, but I almost spat out my drink from laughing. Danielle was perpetually single, but believed she had the authority to comment on other people's relationships, especially to protect Maya from supposed mistakes. And, as expected, Maya defended her. "She just wants the best for me." But we all knew Danielle was that kind of friend who sabotages relationships so she won't be left alone. At every group outing, she managed to drag Maya into a corner for private chats. After those conversations, Maya would come back confused, questioning decisions we had already made, or throwing out ideas that clearly weren't hers. I confronted her once, and Maya gave me the classic, "You're being paranoid." Danielle was like that coworker who does nothing useful, but is copied on all important emails. Loud, useless, and always stirring up trouble. Her presence was like living inside a BuzzFeed quiz on red flags. I should have realized everything when she started showing up at our apartment unannounced, just as the wedding approached. She would arrive with Pinterest boards, proposing changes to the ceremony that coincidentally included delaying the date. Or she would leave us documentaries about discovering oneself before commitment, which Maya would watch in silence, thoughtfully. 7 days before the wedding, everything was ready. That night, we were supposed to go over the final event details: tables, menu, schedule. It was 7 p.m., and Maya hadn't shown up. Strange, but not alarming. However, I started to worry when I noticed she hadn't asked me for her usual daily coffee payment. Yes, she used to remind me that I owed her even the $3.18 from the time she put gas in the car when we went grocery shopping, so yes, her silence was not normal. 8 p.m. passed. Nothing. I messaged her. I called her. Silence. By 9 p.m., I started to feel that knot in my stomach that only appears when you know something is very wrong. Maya's cell phone was practically an extension of her hand. She wrote to me even from the bathroom or in meetings, and now, not a word. By 10 p.m., I was in a state of panic. I called everyone we knew. Nobody knew anything. Not her co-workers, not her friend from the gym. I even called my friend Nick, thinking maybe they were organizing a surprise. Nothing. Her sister, Andrew, had no idea either. Her parents didn't either. At midnight, I was panicking. I went to her apartment. It was dark and her car wasn't there. I went in with my emergency key, fearing I would find her injured or unconscious, but everything was in order. The bed was made, the dishes were washed, except that her handbag and some clothes had disappeared. The next day, I went to the police, explained everything, and filed a missing person report. The officer looked at me like I was exaggerating. "Sir, adults have the right to leave without telling anyone," he commented. This wasn't just any disappearance. This was a woman who notified me when she changed cell phone apps. A woman who called me every day during her lunch break, a week before our wedding. On the second day, her parents also became frantic. They called hospitals, friends, even former university classmates. Nothing. Her mother was convinced she had been kidnapped, and I started to fear the same, although there was a little voice in my head suggesting something worse. On the third day, the police called me. They had found her, safe and sound, at Danielle's house 3 hours away. It was a relief for 2 seconds, because then came the worst part. She wasn't lost or injured. She had simply left without saying anything. Not to her family, not to me. Nothing. The police said she needed space. Space. A week before our wedding. I called her. Nothing. I texted her. Silence. The wedding is still on. Are you okay? No reply. I called Danielle. Nothing. I sent Maya an email, not even a read receipt. It was as if she had entered a witness protection program, but the crime was her own betrayal. And that's not where it ended. That night, I received a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was Celia, Danielle's roommate. "Hi, I'm Celia. We met at a couple of Maya's birthdays. I can't keep quiet about this. Maya isn't just taking space, she's with her ex, Ivan." An attached photo came like a stab to the stomach. Maya and Ivan hugging comfortably, sitting on Danielle's sofa. Date, the day before. Ivan, the same ex she told me I didn't need to worry about, whom she dated for half a year in college and who, she claimed, couldn't commit. The same guy who started reacting to all her social media posts right after our engagement. Celia's next message, she told Danielle that she needed to close that chapter before getting married. Danielle has been encouraging all of this. I thought you should know. This isn't right. I stared at that message for hours. My brain couldn't process it. Closing chapters? A week before getting married? In Danielle's language, closing chapters meant, I want to make sure my ex is no longer an option before I marry you. I called my brother, Scott. He's 38, divorced, and direct as a rock, but he always says what needs to be said. I was in a meeting with a client when my colleague Nancy poked her head through the door and said, "Sorry to interrupt, Ethan, but there's someone outside who says it's urgent." That's when I knew more was coming. 5 days. That was how long it had been without any news from Maya. Not a message, not a call, just silence. Until I finally learned the truth. She was at Danielle's house with her ex-boyfriend, Ivan. I went blank for a few seconds. Then came my brother Scott's words. I knew it. That Danielle girl was never a good influence. And he was right. I couldn't stay still. I started making calls. Each one felt like a punch to the stomach. First, the event venue. $5,000 lost. Then the caterer, $3,500 gone. The photographer not only kept the $1,000 deposit, but already had another wedding booked for that date. The honeymoon flights were non-refundable, $1,800 down the drain. The resort in the Maldives, which was Maya's idea, also didn't give refunds. Another $7,500 vanished there. In total, between everything I had put down, I lost about $15,000. Not to mention the money her family was going to contribute. They were in charge of the dress and paying the florist directly, but I was the one who left the initial deposit. Scott, sitting on my sofa, watched me as I made call after call. When I hung up with the venue, he just said, "That's why I got married at the courthouse. It cost me $75. He paused. Of course, the divorce cost me $20,000, but at least the wedding was cheap. Then came the emotional blow, telling family and friends. I told them the wedding was canceled. I didn't mention Yvonne. I simply said things didn't work out. My mother cried. My father kept asking me over and over, "What happened, son?" How to explain that even I didn't fully understand it. My cousin Peter, who had already bought a flight from Seattle, complained, "Are you serious? The ticket was non-refundable." Trevor, my best friend and best man, had organized a bachelor party in Las Vegas that was supposed to be that weekend. What the hell, Ethan? I've already put money down on everything. Do I return the dinnerware set I bought you? Asked my grandma Ruth, who was excited to see her grandson marry before she died. Her words, not mine. I saved the ticket just in case. I've been married 3 times. I know how these things go. That same day I replied to Celia, Danielle's roommate, who had sent me a photo of Maya and Ivan together. I wrote, "Thanks for letting me know. Does she know you did this?" She replied instantly, "No way. Danielle would kill me if she found out." She also told me that Danielle had been convincing Maya for a long time that she should explore her options before getting married, that Maya deserved to live more. Basically, she had been sowing doubts about me for years. Perfect. While I was choosing cake flavors, my fiancée was listening to toxic advice from a meddling friend and reliving her history with an old flame. Oh, and the ring. A vintage design cushion cut, 1.5 carats. Her dream ring cost me $15,000. I took it to a jeweler. They gave me $9,800, less than I expected but more than I feared. That money served to cover a small part of my losses. The jeweler, an older man named Saul, looked at me with pity when I handed it over. "Let me guess. She changed her mind," he said. I nodded. "Happens more than you think," he sighed. "Last week, a guy came in with a ring from 3 years ago. His wife was cheating on him with her CrossFit instructor. Life is like that." I went home and started packing all of Maya's things, photos, clothes, that ridiculous stuffed animal I won at a fair. Everything labeled, ready for when she deigned to show up. In a drawer, I found one of those self-love crystals that supposedly ward off bad energy. Apparently, it didn't work. I should have left it taped to the door as a welcome-back gift. I also printed the photo Celia sent me and put it in the box along with the wedding invitations, a small archive of the deception. While we were packing, Scott picked up a framed photo of us, laughed, and said, "Look at your face. Pure love and ignorance. Didn't you know she was going to disappear like Houdini?" That was the first sign, when she put that "Live, Laugh, Love" sign in your bathroom. At the bottom of a box, I found something that made me stop. A journal she had left. I never invaded anyone's privacy, but given the circumstances, I made an exception. I flipped through it and found entries from 3 months ago. She wrote about running into Ivan at a coffee shop, how it stirred up feelings she thought were over, and how Danielle encouraged her to explore what she felt before getting married. It wasn't an impulse. She had planned everything. She had decided to try things out with her ex before committing to me, and Danielle, that manipulative friend, had been the architect of the disaster. I put the journal away with the rest of her things. I didn't need it as personal proof, the photo was enough, but if anyone tried to say I was the bad guy, there was the evidence. On the 4th day, with no news from her, her parents started calling me, demanding an explanation for why I was canceling everything without letting Maya give her side. I told them their daughter was at Danielle's house, deliberately ignoring all my attempts at contact. I didn't mention Ivan. It wasn't my story to tell. Her father, Christopher, had the audacity to tell me, "Young people get scared sometimes. It's normal. Maya has always been sensitive. You should be patient with her." Patience. I had to file a missing person report because his daughter preferred to flee without even sending a text a week before the wedding. But yes, of course, I was the one exaggerating. And so we arrived at that moment at my job, 5 days after the disappearance, with Nancy at the door, telling me someone urgently needed to see me. I walked out to the reception, and there she was, Maya. Swollen eyes, messy hair, with the look of someone who has cried for days. "Ethan," she murmured, her voice choked with tears, and she tried to come closer to hug me. I firmly pulled away. "What are you doing here?" I asked quietly. Nancy, the receptionist, pretended to be interested in her screen, though it was obvious she was listening to everything. "We need to talk," Maya whispered, holding back tears. "Please. This has all been a mistake." "A mistake? Disappearing a week before our wedding, without saying anything to anyone, to go off with your ex?" Forgetting to buy milk is a mistake. What you did was a nuclear bombing of our relationship. I know. I got scared. I panicked. Danielle told me some things, and I didn't know how to face you. I was filled with shame. Ethan, I still love you. I want to fix this. She tried to take my hand, but I pulled it back. Fix this, Maya? There's nothing to fix. It's over. I canceled the wedding for good. Her face fell and then immediately hardened. You couldn't do that without consulting me. It was our wedding. They were our plans. Plans you abandoned when you left without a word. I needed space, she replied, raising her voice. You never understood that. Always hovering, always wanting to know where I was. Right. Now I'm the controlling boyfriend for asking about my fiancée a week before the wedding. And Danielle, I asked, not hiding the sarcasm. Is she going to be at the new wedding you plan to organize? Maya's eyes barely widened. Danielle was just trying to help me understand my feelings. She's always wanted the best for me. Sure she does, I replied coldly. Your feelings led you down some pretty interesting paths. Her expression shifted from confusion to defense. I just needed time to think, to be sure. After 5 years together, the least you can do is let me explain. I don't owe you anything, Maya. You're being completely irrational, she said, losing her composure. Not everything revolves around you. I've been under pressure too with all the preparations. It's not fair. Translation. Ivan didn't want anything to do with her, and now I was her second option. No, thank you. And the worst thing was that it seemed like I was the one who had abandoned everything. As if I were the villain for having canceled a wedding that she herself destroyed. Nancy tried to stay out of it, but her eyes widened with every word. It was clear that the office story of the day already had a protagonist. Maya, I'm in the middle of a meeting with a client. I can't deal with this now. Of course, she said in a wounded tone. Your job was always more important than our relationship. I almost laughed at the irony. Our relationship? The one you put on pause to go off with your ex to see if what you had before was worth reviving? Her face went white. What are you talking about? Don't hide it anymore. I know about Ivan. Her expression was a parade of emotions. First surprise, then guilt, and finally that calculating look of someone trying to gauge how much the other person knows. It wasn't what it looks like. We just talked as friends. Danielle thought it would give me perspective. Perspective on what? On whether it was worth staying with me or if Ivan was a better option? You already have your answer because you're here, which leads me to believe Ivan didn't want to repeat. She started crying again, almost as if she had rehearsed it. You're being cruel. I made a mistake. I was confused. I was scared. I sold the ring. Maya, we're wasting time. She was speechless. What? You sold the ring? Ooh. That's right. I lost over $15,000 in non-refundable deposits. The $9,800 from the ring barely covered a fraction of it. That ring was mine. It was inspired by my grandmother's. How could you do something like that? Yours? I bought it for a wedding you canceled with your actions. It was a symbol of a commitment you broke. Inspiration doesn't make it a relic when I was the one who paid for it. But the money did serve to cover the venue, the catering, part of the honeymoon, and all the expenses that arose from your decisions. And even so, I'm still in the red. She stared at me, almost unable to comprehend. You have to give it back to me. That money was mine too. We were going to get married. We're going to. Past tense. I only have an obligation to protect myself from further harm. At that moment, my boss, Mr. Donaldson, came out, hearing the commotion. Everything all right, Ethan? Personal matter, Mr. Donaldson. It's being resolved now. Maya turned to him as if he were a judge. He sold my engagement ring and canceled our wedding without telling me. The poor man didn't know where to look. This is not appropriate, Maya. Leave, I asked her firmly. But Ethan, our families, the deposits my parents paid. Your parents paid for your dress, which you still have. They were supposed to take care of the florist, but they didn't do it on time. I had to assume the $1,400 penalty because I made the reservation, and I have receipts for everything. You can discuss those charges with them." Now, she truly burst into tears. "I made a mistake. I don't deserve this lack of compassion." I leaned in a little and lowered my voice. "Compassion for needing to close chapters with Ivan at Danielle's house? You've been spying on me," she snapped, ignoring everything else. "I don't need to spy. People talk, and not everyone approves of what you did." She changed tactics in a second. "I've been through trauma, Ethan. Do you know what commitment anxiety is? I'm suffering. Are you punishing me for a mental health issue?" Perfect. Textbook victim mentality now. "This isn't over," she said, trying to regain dignity. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer about that ring money." "Oh, it's over," I replied, quoting with irony. "Hasta la vista, baby." Nancy let out a muffled laugh as Maya stumbled out of the office, almost tripping over a plant. Mr. Donaldson looked at me sympathetically. "Take the rest of the day if you need it, Ethan." "Thank you, but I'd rather stay here. At least I won't think about the mess my personal life is." Later, when I told Scott everything, he almost fell off his chair laughing. "She showed up at your work? That's movie material. Any minute now, she'll write a book. My escape from the patriarchy, 7 days with my ex at my best friend's house." "What infuriates me," I told him, "is that she acts like I'm the bad guy for canceling the wedding, as if I had to stick around and wait for her to decide if she wanted me or preferred Ivan." "Brother," Scott shook his head, "my ex-wife did something similar. She said she needed to find herself and went to Bali. She came back with a tattoo and a Brazilian instructor named Paulo. I told her we could have an open marriage with a firmly closed divorce. That night, I opened my email and found a message from Attorney Gerald, supposedly representing Maya. He was demanding the full value of the ring as misappropriated property and demanding I return the $15,000. No, not the $9,800 I got from selling it, the full $15,000. I received a formal letter demanding the ring's reimbursement plus $5,000 in emotional compensation. Without wasting time, I forwarded the document to my cousin Jen, a lawyer, with the subject line, "Can you believe this?" 10 minutes later, she called me, laughing hysterically. She could barely speak. "Is this serious?" she asked, still chuckling. "Maya is suing you for selling the ring after she left you stranded before the wedding, and she wants emotional damages on top of it. What's her argument? That you took away her chance to pawn it herself?" I imitated Maya's voice, feigning lament. "But it had sentimental value." "Sentimentality doesn't hold up in court," Jen replied. "Engagement rings are conditional gifts. Without the marriage, there's no legal right to them. It's basic contract law. I'm going to draft a response that will make that Gerald crawl back into the hole he came from." That night, Maya's mother called me. Let's call her Karen for obvious reasons. She had always been outwardly kind, but loaded with hidden judgments. She was one of those people who smile while tearing you down with subtle comments. She once asked me if I felt comfortable with my limited career, or if I had real aspirations. "Ethan," she said, feigning sweetness, "Maya is devastated, heartbroken." "I can imagine," I replied coldly. Screaming at someone's workplace must be exhausting. There was an annoyed exhale on the other end. "Listen to me carefully, young man. I won't tolerate that tone." It was clear to her that Maya had made a simple mistake, but my reaction was completely disproportionate. That selling the ring and canceling everything without consulting anyone was ruining her family's image. There was the real concern. The image, not her daughter's abandonment, but how it looked to others. She had the audacity to suggest that Maya's apology should be accompanied by my commitment to resume the wedding and return the ring money. When I called her delusional, she pivoted the discourse to the sentimental value of the ring design, a design pulled from a catalog. Then she reminded me that they paid for Maya's dress and had given us $5,000 for the honeymoon. I clarified that that money was used for the non-refundable reservation at a Maldives resort, chosen by Maya herself. I had receipts and bank statements as proof. "It was inappropriate for you to keep that money," she snapped. "I'll talk to our lawyer." They were all obsessed with the legal angle now. When I mentioned the penalty for canceling the florist, an amount I ended up paying because they didn't fulfill their part, she exploded. That's blackmail. I want to talk to your parents. They need to know the kind of son they raised. The most absurd thing was when she defended Maya by saying she had gotten scared. Young girls do these things, she affirmed. I also had doubts before marrying Christopher. It's normal. Karen, Maya is 29, not 19. Decent people don't act like this. I was about to mention Ivan and Danielle, but I held back. If Maya hadn't told them anything, it wasn't my place to drop that bomb. Let her deal with her own mess. That family's attitude was unbelievable. According to them, with a simple "I'm sorry" from Maya, everything should be forgotten. They even asked me to apologize to her for selling the ring. Ethan, you should do the right thing. Maya is willing to forgive you if you apologize and replace the ring. She is being very generous, considering what you put her through. I was about to respond. I'll return the ring money when she compensates me for the trauma she left me for the rest of my life. But I chose to maintain my composure. When I told Scott about Karen's call, he almost choked on his drink, laughing. Let me get this straight. His daughter disappears a week before the wedding, runs off with her ex, and when he rejects her, she comes back crying, and you're the one who has to apologize. What's next? Are you going to write her a thank you note for destroying your life? Honestly, Scott should have a podcast, one dedicated to tearing apart romantic disasters and toxic in-laws. I'd call it No Ring, No Refund. I'd subscribe twice, and that wasn't all. The next day, Maya's father, Christopher, sent me a condescending email. He went into gentleman mode, asking me to resolve this like adult men. According to him, Maya was only overwhelmed with the preparations, that my reaction was an overreaction to a momentary lapse. Momentary. Disappearing without notice for more than a week is an impulsive reaction. They lived in another universe. I replied with a single line. You will shortly receive a detailed breakdown of all wedding-related expenses. Then Andrew, Maya's sister, called me. She was always the most sensible one. Ethan, I'm so sorry about all this. I know Maya messed up. My parents are acting ridiculously. Thank you, Andrew. It means a lot. And for what it's worth, I don't think she deserves another chance. Who does that to someone they supposedly love, and a week before getting married? It was a relief that at least one person in that family had their feet on the ground. But the harassment from Maya's parents continued. So, I sent Karen a clear message. I am going to send you, Christopher and Maya, a detailed list of all the wedding expenses that I assumed, and that remained my responsibility. That document will make clear who was supposed to pay what and who caused each loss. I will also include the $1,400 for the florist that I covered for you. Whether you want to reimburse me or not is your decision, but any further demands will be met with a cease and desist order from an attorney. Is that clear? Absolute silence. You wouldn't dare, she finally replied. Do you know who Christopher plays golf with? We have connections. Try me, I said and hung up. It wasn't pleasant, but I felt a brutal peace, that cold anger that drives you to act. The next day, I did it. I put together a meticulous spreadsheet, vendors, dates, deposits, scanned receipts, everything. I highlighted the florist penalty. I added proof of the ring sale and how that sale barely covered part of my losses. I hesitated whether to include the photo Celia had sent me, but I decided not to for now. I wasn't looking for all-out war. I just wanted to set clear boundaries, though I kept it just in case. I made 3 copies, sent certified mail with confirmation of receipt. One for Maya, one for her parents. Scott reviewed the document before I sent it. Brother, this is art, accounting poetry. I'm excited. Afterward, I wrote to Celia. Thanks again for being honest with me. Were there any consequences for you? She replied that Danielle was becoming suspicious, that she intuited someone had spoken. Maya had moved out the day before after a huge fight with Danielle. Apparently, Yvonne made it clear he only wanted to hang out, that he didn't want to get back together with her. Danielle told her she deserved something better than either of them. Toxic as can be. The most ironic part, Danielle destroyed Maya's life for some absurd crusade, and then kicked her out as soon as things got ugly. loyalty sponsored by TikTok therapy, and $12 lattes. So Maya wasn't even at Danielle's house anymore. After the scandal at my job, the fight with her friend, and Ivan's rejection, she had gone back to her parents. And just as they were reconnecting, my expense sheet arrived as an uninvited guest. The next day, I returned to my work routine. After a long day at the construction site, I arrived home around 7 p.m. and immediately noticed something wasn't right. The air had a different smell, a familiar one, her perfume. Maya had been there. I had texted her earlier to tell her she could come by to pick up her things, the ones in boxes in the living room. I made it clear I didn't want to see her, just that she should take her belongings and leave. I was going to leave the door unlocked between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., but apparently she decided to show up later. When I entered my study, I froze. My custom-built computer, the one I put together myself, the one I had invested thousands in, and that was my companion throughout college, was in pieces. The case was lying on the floor with the side panel dented, the components scattered everywhere. Someone had hit it with something heavy, a hammer or a bat. The liquid from the cooling system had spilled onto the floor. With trembling hands, I picked up a fragment of the graphics card, an RTX that had cost me $200 and that I had bought after months of saving. It was snapped in half. Taped to the screen was a note. Now we're even. M. I felt my blood boil, but I tried to stay calm. The first thing I did was call Jeff, my neighbor, who has one of those doorbell cameras that points right at my door. I asked him if his camera had recorded anyone entering my apartment that day. "Yeah, actually," he said. "Your girlfriend was by around 5:30. Seemed weird." "Well, my ex. Could you send me that video?" I asked. "Sure thing, man." The video clearly showed Maya entering at 5:38 p.m., carrying what looked like a small sledgehammer. What the hell? She left at 5:52 p.m. with a triumphant expression, as if she had just launched a successful album, as if she had just left a message of war. And while she was walking away like that, I was standing there in front of my computer, as if I had just witnessed a war crime. I took photos of everything, the damage, the note, every destroyed component. Then I texted Maya, "Why did you destroy my PC?" As soon as I sent the message, the 3 dots appeared. She'd been waiting for this moment. "I don't know what you're talking about," she replied. "Seriously? You're not the one who entered my apartment with a hammer today at 5:38? A minute passed without a response. Then she wrote, "You deserved it after what you did to me." Perfect. Screenshot saved. And what exactly did I do to deserve you destroying something worth $3,000? I humiliated you, ruined our future, sold my ring. Oh, right. And that justifies a criminal act? Thanks for the confession. The police are going to love it. You wouldn't dare, she wrote back. It would be your word against mine. I sent her the screenshot of her confession. It's not your word against mine anymore. You just admitted it in writing, and I have video of you entering with the weapon. I went to the police station and reported what happened. I had to initiate a process in small claims court to recover the value of the damages, but with all the evidence, it was relatively easy. Maya tried to defend herself by saying that I had caused her emotional damage, but the judge didn't believe a word of it. She was ordered to pay $2,800 plus court costs. A few months have passed since then. Everything calmed down after that financial explosion and the court ruling. Silence. A blessed silence. No calls from her mother Karen, no desperate attempts by Maya to show up. The florist money, the $1,400. I never got it back, and I knew I would never see it. Trying to get money from Karen was like trying to bathe a cat, simply impossible, but I had managed to make my point clear. I included all the expenses I assumed because of her in a detailed file. And although I didn't recover everything, Maya complied with the PC ruling. The court gave her 30 days, and exactly on day 29 a check arrived with the exact amount. No note, no apology, but a small victory nonetheless. A month ago, Andrew, her sister, wrote to me, "You won't believe what happened." Well, you probably will. Maya asked our parents to pay for a spiritual retreat to heal from the trauma of the wedding cancellation and the legal harassment, a retreat costing $3,000. And Dad told her no. He said that if she wanted to heal, she should do it by finding a job and repaying what was lost on the reservations. They lost money with the dress and the alterations. Now Mom isn't speaking to Dad, and Maya is throwing an epic-sized scandal. That was worth more than the sawn $400. It was the crash of her sense of superiority against the wall of reality. And the best part came later. Andrew told me that Celia, Danielle's roommate, sent Karen a photo showing Maya with Ivan. I couldn't keep it to myself anymore, she told Andrew, and Karen confronted Maya. It was the end of the world. Maya tried to justify it. She said they were only looking for closure, but Karen didn't believe it. Her father, Christopher, fed up, packed a bag, and left for 3 days. The first time I've ever seen him do that. I was with Scott, my brother, playing on my new PC, bought with the money Maya had to pay me by court order, when I told him about the spiritual retreat. He nearly choked with laughter. Spiritual retreat for what? He said. For chronic narcissism? For advanced denial of reality? What's next? An online collection for her emotional unicorn? Today, I enjoy a peaceful routine. I replaced the sofa with one that suits me better. I'm consistently back at the gym, and my work has been going well. I even received a promotion thanks to how maturely I handled the entire situation. I'm focused on myself. My brothers are right. I saved myself from a disaster that was announced, and now I have the opportunity to rebuild without pressure. She faced the consequences of her decisions, and I stand firm in mine. As my father always said, there is no better answer than living in peace. And that's what I do. She chose her path with all its consequences, and I chose to move forward. In my apartment, silence, order, and a freedom I value more than ever reigns supreme. I play quietly on my new computer, ironically financed by the person who tried to destroy it, without interruptions, without nighttime dramas or guilt trips. Just me, my space, my projects, and that constant feeling that everything finally fell into place. And while some remain trapped in their own lies, I keep going without looking back.